Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. First of all, thank you so much if you are a loyal subscriber, because I've been in this industry since 2012. One of the things I've been talking about since the very beginning is the potential of equity crowdfunding. And maybe you have been with me since the very beginning, and it's so exciting to see this finally coming to fruition. So I'm going to be sharing today some facts and figures when it comes to equity crowdfunding, specifically why this is a boom. This is major for the economy. This is incredible for entrepreneurs out there, and an incredible investment opportunity as well for people in the audience that are interested in getting the ground floor of startup companies. So we're talking a little bit about that, but on the channel we talk a lot about crowdfunding. We get into things like crowdfunding personal expenses. We get into other subjects like nonprofit fundraising. I cover a lot of Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and specifically how you can raise money on one of those platforms for a new physical product. Equity crowdfunding is a bit of a different animal. And kind of what I want to share with you is just highlight this opportunity that I have spotted and some of the trends that I am paying attention to that I think will be extremely profitable for you in the future. So let's get into it right now. Okay, so first of all, equity crowdfunding is very confusing in my opinion, and there have been a bunch of different new news and regulations and things that have come into that. So we're just kind of trying to keep this very simple. I'm not a big fan of using very big financial words and jargon. Let's try to keep it really simple, man. Keep it really simple, right? This is going to be high level, but also going through some real stats and figures that I think are very important for you. If you're not familiar with equity crowdfunding, number one, go and check out some of the videos that I got out there on YouTube on the actual subject, going through all the tutorials, the step-by-step, all that kind of stuff. If you want just kind of a skinny, it's basically like Kickstarter, Indiegogo with one big difference. You still have a crowd of people that are investing in your campaign. You still can offer perks and rewards, or in the case of an equity crowdfunding campaign, these are more like great things that gifts that people get access to. When it comes to Kickstarter and Indiegogo, you also have a video, you also have that with equity crowdfunding. You have a goal, you also have that with equity crowdfunding. The one big difference is the fact that the people that are investing in your campaign with an equity crowdfunding campaign are actually getting shares in your company. And that doesn't happen with Kickstarter and Indiegogo. With Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's kind of more like an e-commerce play. You're getting pre-orders, early adopter customers, people that are trying out your prototype. With equity crowdfunding, any startup out there can raise money, and we'll get into actually the ones that are also more likely to. And those people that invest in your company can also become early adopters. They can spread the word about your company. And you can have a boatload of funds that you can apply to grow your actual startup business. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the cool news is that investment crowdfunding has recently topped $1 billion in funds committed. Think about that, $1 billion. That is so insane. To just get a little bit more nitty gritty with these stats, this is by the Crowdfunding Capital Advisors team. 1.2 million investors, 4,500 companies that have gone under these exemptions for investment crowdfunding. It has topped 1 billion recently. Now, I remember the days when it was like 10 million, right? It was like 20 million. It was really in infancy. Obviously, those are huge numbers, but when it comes to raising capital for companies and startups, really not that big, right? Still, I think that's a significant milestone, 1 billion, when it comes to investment crowdfunding. And I kind of want to talk about why is that? Why is this trend picking up? Why is this something that you should be aware of? But before we do, let's get into just a couple of other quick stats. So what I'd like to draw your attention to is Q3 of 2021. Under Q3 of 2021, 148 million was raised under these exemptions, and also reported by Crowdfunding Capital Advisors created 17,000 jobs for the economy. That's insane. Think about that. 148 million just in Q3 alone of 2021. This thing is about to take off. And you can tell that obviously by percentage increase. Because if we just throw out a number, it's just a number right out there. No one really has a concept of like what is 148 million. I'm also going to put that into perspective for you in just a second. But just to go when it comes to percentage wise, this is 93% greater than this time last year. 93% greater. And just comparing to the last Q2, it is 12.5% greater than that quarter. And there's actually a couple of things in the works as well where I think it's going to explode even more so. So first of all, I think the number one thing to take away is that this is growing. This is a growing trend, and there are reasons behind this trend which is occurring. Number two, this isn't peanuts anymore. This isn't a $5 million raise in a year. This isn't just 10 million, 20 million. This is $1 billion which is committed. And in quarter three alone, 148 million. And not only that, it's creating jobs, which is what you as an entrepreneur, like, is one of the coolest like privileges, I think, of being a business owner or startup founder, is the fact that you can impact other people. That's what I'm all about. It's like, how do you impact other people, create meaning, not only make money, which is incredible, not only raise funds, which is obviously my job, but how do you also make an impact on people? And think about that. The impacting all those people's lives, that to me is just incredible, insane, whatever word you like to use. In addition, we can talk about the year-to-date offerings. So there have been 1,177 offerings as year-to-date, but also 409 million, which has been committed year-to-date. So at the time I'm recording this video, and it's gonna be more. So there's another quarter here. There's gonna be greater when this video comes out. That's not chump change, man. That's a lot of opportunity. And if you're out there doing a startup company and you're only trying to raise, 100K, 200K, 500K, maybe $1 million, that's like a drop in the bucket, right? So this is an opportunity for you, and other people are seeing success. And that's kind of what I've staked my career on, is like, I see other people having success. And I'm like, hey, that looks really cool. Other people are like, no, that guy is like stupid, or that's a horrible business, or why are you doing that? It seems so scammy, or blah, blah, blah. I look at that and I'm like, congratulations, like, that's awesome, man. I want to get in on that. Like, I want to slice the pie, and I'll start taking action, right? That's really what I've done my entire career. Whether that's starting with my blog when no one else was doing that, right? Starting with my podcast before anyone else, starting with my YouTube channel, putting out courses and books and all that kind of stuff. I love opportunity. Like, to me, opportunity is incredible because it's another chance for you to level up and to become more and to do something that's going to impact other people in a much larger way than you ever imagined possible. So that being said, let's get back here. I'm going to go on a whole tangent here if we go through that. So software, the software category was actually one of the largest categories when it comes to raising money under these exemptions of regulation crowdfunding. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, if you've been following me for a long time, you will know I continually say, man, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, amazing, physical products, super difficult when it comes to software. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are a lot of great software campaigns out there that have been successful, right? But it's more difficult. That's because software is an intangible. Right? It's hard for people to really try it out or to see it, and they have to believe that you can actually execute and make this technological product. So it's a little bit difficult, but what's kind of interesting is that equity crowdfunding solves this problem, because now people don't have to be just consumers of the software. They can also believe in the mission, the market size, the rate at which you're growing or adding users. They can believe in the team that you've cobbled together of elite, hardcore engineers who are going to pull off this software as a service or this B2C or whatever kind of play you're trying to do, right, with the software company. They can believe in that vision and they can become a part of it. They can invest in the next Uber, the next Lyft, the next Google, the next Facebook, the next Instagram, whatever it is. There's so many of these little software companies that are mega. You think they'd be like Shopify, right? And once a really small company, a guy just selling his own snowboards and decided to make an e-commerce company out of it, and now it's a huge billion-dollar company and a massive industry. So software is a great fit for equity crowdfunding. If you're listening to this and you're thinking about you already have a software product, or you're trying to get something going there and you're like, you know what, I'd love to raise money for this. This is a good fit for you. You should definitely reach out to me, do a one-on-one coaching call, and we can talk about how this can work for you. But that being said, this is also great for other types of companies out there. You can go on a site like WeFunder, Start Engine, Republic.co, which I'm going to mention in a second. And you can go there and you can just see all the different categories that are available to raise money under, and the different types of companies. I had recently on my podcast a guy who was doing a drone deliveries, right? And this guy raised $1 million. Insane. Go and listen to my podcast, the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast, and you'll see many of these success stories that I'm sharing with you to show you opportunity, right? Opportunity about it. So there's a lot of things that go into this, okay? There's a lot of reasons why this is happening. And there are so many other stats out there. I'm gonna let you spend your own time looking through these. I wanna illustrate a couple of reasons that go into this major trend. So one of the recent changes is the fact that the limits were raised and how much you can actually raise under these security exemptions under regulation crowdfunding. So it started as 1.07 million, right? When I first got started, I started putting out content, 1.07 million. And recently in March of 2021, it was raised to 5 million. And now that's a huge difference. And what that does is it opens up the floodgates for a lot of people out there that were trying to raise money and do a Series A round, right? And trying to raise a little bit more than just the average entrepreneur out there doing a regulation crowdfunding campaign. That opens it up to them to use the crowd and to make this a marketing exercise, not just a raising capital from a bunch of guys in a boardroom exercise. This is now where everyone can participate. You can actually invest in marketing and you can blow up the name of your company. It's almost like massive brand appeal that you can bring to what is traditionally like a behind closed doors kind of an act, which is raising capital, which I think is super cool. So this fact that these limits were raised is one big reason behind this massive growth in equity crowdfunding, but there are also a couple more that I would like to point out. So we'll say the first one here, we'll just put this down as the funding cap increase. And again, these are the reasons behind this growth, right? These are the reasons, in my opinion, at least what I've identified, what I've studied, behind the growth of regulation crowdfunding and why this is poised to become the next big thing you're going to be hearing about everywhere. And you're hearing about it here first, or maybe you've already even begun to see it in the mainstream, right? So this is one of the reasons behind mega growth, behind equity crowdfunding, but there's also something that's supported by that, I would say. So other people are seeing this. This isn't just me, and I'd like to give you one other example. And I'm going to actually add like one or two more points to this, honestly, because I really do want to get a little more in depth today. One other example. Recently, Republic.co, which is one of the major platforms out there, their Start Engine, Republic.co, Seed Invest, WeFunder, one that I love, I made a bunch of videos on, you can check out on YouTube. Republic.co just recently raised $150 million, I believe it was a Series B round, in order to fuel the expansion of their equity crowdfunding platform. Think about that, my friends, $150 million. So we'll just say Republic.co recently got 150 millies, right? 150 million, which is ironically how much was raised in general with equity crowdfunding under Q3, which tells you a bit about their size, right? And just how other types of capital raising works. So why is that big? That's big because other venture capitalists out there, other investors that are sophisticated investors out there see the potential of regulation crowdfunding and they want to get in on the ground floor. They're already seeing it working. They have access to internal metrics when it comes to Republic.co, and they're saying, heck yes. If they're investing 150 million, you can bet that they believe and value that company at billions, right? And it's going to grow and grow over time. It's going to become a major player in the space in the same way that other companies out there with peer-to-peer lending used to be like really small players, and all of a sudden, Lending Club became this massive company, and like Prosper and all these other ones. All these different fintech companies that we now talk about as almost like normal companies started out really small. And I can see that happening with a lot of these equity crowdfunding platforms out there, particularly when they're providing these different sophisticated services and also a lot of hand-holding when it comes to the entire equity crowdfunding process. With that money, let me ask you, what do you think they're gonna do? Right? So the more funds that someone has, the more they can inject that into the business to grow the actual business, to educate people, and also to market the entire thing that gets people interested, which is equity crowdfunding. So they're going to be pouring that money into the industry, which is super exciting, as well as into their technology. And they're going to be developing likely other things as well, things that like Start Engine have already begun to develop and have working. And what I'm talking about here, you might already know, it's called secondary market trading. So we're going to say secondary markets. What do I mean by that? Okay, secondary markets. So when the stock market, first started, or you think of like an IPO, initial shares. A company is selling like the original shares that they're issuing once, right? And they're doing that in order to raise capital. Well, one of the things that leads to liquidity in the public markets, liquidity in general when it comes to any financial markets, the fact that people can trade their securities. If you can't trade your securities, you're gonna be stuck holding this thing for years and years and years, right? And it might be 10 years before you can actually sell this thing. Kind of more similar to like real estate or something like that. Well, then they started to securitize real estate, right? And you got other things like private REITs, like I talk about with Fundrise and CrowdStreet, all those other guys have other things when it comes to traditional REITs, etc. And you have then sort of like baskets of funds and that kind of stuff. One of the things that's really important with equity crowdfunding to make this more mainstream is to have a secondary market where people who have invested in startups can trade their shares or their ability to claim future shares with other people, right? And when that happens, it creates and adds liquidity to the marketplace. So that means that if you're investing, let's say $1,000 today, that doesn't mean you're going to be just all in with that company for the next 8 years until they do an IPO, or the next 5 years until they get sold, or whatever happens, whatever kind of future liquidity event. You can trade those shares maybe tomorrow, or in 30 days, or in 60 days, or 90 days. Different rules that are going to be in play. But a secondary market is beginning to already form. Start Engine is already pioneering that, right, to a degree. And that's going to happen, in my opinion, on all these major platforms. So there's going to be a lot of trading of startups. And that obviously opens up the floodgates as well, because then people will start talking about trading startups. Think about Reddit, think about meme stocks, right? People are going to be talking and trading different shares, creating conversation, creating a niche community, and that's one of the drivers, in my opinion, behind making equity crowdfunding huge. The next thing that I want to go over is super important, but before we do, go and check out, number one, my free equity crowdfunding course at crowdcrux.com/equity course. We'll get you primed, get you ready, get you teaching you all the different tactics and basics when it comes to doing an equity crowdfunding raise and learning a little bit just more about the industry itself. Go and check out crowdcrux.com/equity course. In addition, if you want to book a one-on-one coaching call with me and talk about how this can work for your specific business, or you want help getting set up with one of these campaigns, you can go to crowdcrux.com/coaching and sign up for an individual one-on-one intensive coaching call with me. Okay, that being said, let's talk about number 4, right? What is the next pillar? Why is this continuing to go mainstream, and what is leading the growth of the trend? And it really comes down to 2 things, and kind of like a hybrid, I'd say, putting them together. And it's the combination of social media and influencers. And now hear me out here. Why is social media and influencers such a big thing when it comes to having mass adoption of a new instrument or a new product or anything like that? The first example I'm going to give is Kevin O'Leary, okay? So Kevin, I'm totally going to butcher his name, O'Leary/Start Engine. So this is, to me, is a really great example. I've been saying this for years. Again, if you watch my other videos, you'll know I've been talking about this for a while. The fact that Kevin O'Leary is now the face, kind of like the Priceline guy was, right? From Star Trek, I keep forgetting his name. You can write it down in the comments. Who's the guy who is the face of Priceline and was in Star Trek? James T. Kirk, right? You can write that down in the comments if you remember. But that being said, Kevin O'Leary is now the face of Start Engine. And who knows how long it's going to last, right? But he's now the face of Start Engine. And that opens up on the floodgates, because more and more people that are familiar with Kevin O'Leary are going to become interested in equity crowdfunding. Maybe at some point he's going to introduce it to Shark Tank, and there might be a combination where you're watching Shark Tank and you can also look and be like, hey, I want to invest in that. And you can invest in that company right then and there. Think about how powerful that would be as an entrepreneur and as an investor, to be able to get access to some of these major companies that usually are just behind closed doors. Now they kind of open that up so that you can actually participate. And we're going to see this happen more and more and more. I'm not talking about just with the platforms, I'm talking about the individual offerings as well. Think about how this works with ICOs, or issuing new tokens, new coins, right? And how when there's an influencer that's tied to that, how it's like an instant uptick with that particular coin. And that could be good or bad, obviously. I'm not making any kind of judgments there. I love crypto. Crypto is really cool to me, so I'm not making any kind of judgment there. But whenever you attach an influencer to something, another great example. Let's talk about Regulation A+, and let's talk about real estate crowdfunding. Who is one of the people out there who have used real estate crowdfunding super powerfully, but no one really knows that that's the case? And one person is Grant Cardone, right? And getting involved with real estate and allowing his community to invest in properties that he himself is investing in, running in, and providing that ability to have that transaction online, and almost being able to market to his own community and then get funding for a real estate deal. That's incredible. Like, that's never been done before in history, and that is huge. That is huge news that people need to pay attention to, and this is how it's going to work. The more that you can get influencers involved, like Ashton Kutcher, people who have brand name, personality appeal into startup culture, the more that there's going to be this melding where now more and more people are familiar with equity crowdfunding, more and more people are getting involved, right, in new cool startups, and as those startups exit, you're going to see more financial returns. It's going to be a really interesting scenario to me in the future. Another big one, which I think we have to mention, obviously, right, is digital marketing. And why is this such a big play, right? So digital marketing, this is my space. I'm obviously a coach, and I love writing books, and I do a podcast, I do a YouTube channel, I also help people with digital marketing, etc. This is huge because nowadays it is so freaking easy to reach new audiences of people. You just have to know how it all works, right? So you, as a startup founder, before you might be like, well, I gotta know the right people, right? I gotta be able to shake hands with the right individuals. I gotta be in the right boardroom. I gotta be in the right place. And if I'm not, there's no way I could ever raise capital if I'm not in Silicon Valley. Well, my friend, the times are changing, right? The times are changing. And that's because you can now use the power of the internet, use the power of video, just like the way that I'm trying to reach you. You can use that to your advantage to be able to reach thousands and thousands and thousands of people around the world who may be interested in investing in your startup company. And it takes a fraction of ad spend when it comes to doing other sorts of billboards and TV ads and old school radio ads that don't even work anymore, right? Working with a sophisticated digital marketer like myself and like others in the industry is like, to me, a straightest path to success. This is a marketing play. This is completely 100% a marketing play. As you need to convince people of your vision that you have in the future, what you're trying to accomplish, your market size, the problem that you're solving, etc., the technology that you have, the team that you have. This is a sales and a marketing play, and the more convincing that you can make your pitch, and the more that you become really good at honing in on those people who are going to take action and putting them through, making them feel like they would love to be a part of this startup, right? The more successful that you are going to be. So as the digital marketing tools become much more sophisticated over time, I can also see this working really well, almost like hand in hand with equity crowdfunding, thus fueling its surge.
Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillment is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillment today. Link in the description.
The final thing I'm going to mention here is, I think, actually like the gold mine. And this is really what is the fulcrum. This is like the force lever. This is really the tipping point. This is what is going to make equity crowdfunding go mainstream, okay? And by mainstream, obviously, like we're kind of comparing it to other ones out there like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, etc. I'm talking about mainstream, at least in the crowdfunding world, and to a degree when it comes to the public domain, right? Mainstream. What is going to cause that? I'm going to write it in just a second. What is going to cause that? Okay, and this I'll demonstrate exactly why this is the case. And I'm just going to kind of sum it up with a phrase here, which is success begets success. Okay, success begets success. Success causes success. It's almost like a snowball effect, right? The more that this thing rolls down the hill, the bigger and the bigger that it gets. And here's why. I remember the days when, for example, GoFundMe was just a thing. Like I remember when they were running a crowdfunding campaign for an Alaskan bobsled team. This was the Jamaican bobsled team, right? And people like really rallied around this thing and ended up giving tons of money. I remember the Ice Bucket Challenge, right? I remember these very early social media driven campaigns and how people went wild. I remember back in the day when a guy raised $50,000 in order to make potato salad on Kickstarter, right? And everyone's like, how does he raise that money? I don't get it, right? And he ended up like introducing a charitable component. But I remember very vividly people just having their mind blown. And then all of a sudden seeing like, wow, if he can raise $50K to make potato salad, what could I raise for my idea, right? And we see, for example, with Kickstarter, in the early days, go check out my book, Kickstarter Launch Formula, great book. I talk about some of these examples and the fact that it began very humbly. And actually, Indiegogo was the first crowdfunding platform out there, compared to Kickstarter. Kickstarter came later. But still, it became very humble, thinking about the early successes. I mean, even Cards Against Humanity started, right? But the early successes that happened on that platform are what fueled the future. And it was only after you went through those kind of early campaigns, and you hear about the Pebble Watch, and you hear about like the Coolest Cooler campaign, you hear about all these nifty game projects, right? Remember the Ouya back in the day? These are really what brought in the awareness of Kickstarter as a platform. It brought more and more backers and more people into the industry. Same thing with GoFundMe and other charitable platforms out there. These early campaigns are what brought people to the campaign platform and what enabled the fuel and the growth behind that actual medium. Now the same thing is true, same thing with Indiegogo obviously. Same thing is true with equity crowdfunding. The more that we see success, the more we see that public success, venture capitalists, investors, entrepreneurs, creative types, startup founders, they're all going to become flocking to this because success begets success. The more we publicly see those funding meters going up and up, the more we see those tickers going higher and get really excited about that, right? The more we realize that it's possible, and that is my role in this process. I talk about, my crowdfunding course, equity crowdfunding course, crowdcrux.com/equity course, my coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Part of my role is to educate, obviously, and to help people and to train people and to, in some cases, do it for them, right? If they have the ability in order to hire me or to work with me and my team. However, I think my bigger play, my bigger reason why I'm on this planet is to demonstrate that this is possible and to do that with proof, to do that with credibility. Listen to my podcast, the Crowdfunding Demystified Podcast, and you'll hear about founders just like you getting started and raising money. This is my purpose, is to show you that this is possible. And the more that you see success, the more that it begets more and more success. And that's what's really cool, I think, about this, and really where we're going to see that snowball effect begin to happen. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if nothing else, this is now on your radar. This is now something that is on your head. And if you did enjoy this video, give me a thumbs up, come subscribe for more content like this, leave a comment down below if you'd like to show some love and some support. It means so much to me, man. I appreciate it if you follow me for a week, a month, or in some cases, years. I view it as a privilege to be able to bring these kinds of messages to you. So thank you so much, and I will see you next time.